If you've been here for the last 4 solo episodes, you've heard me say hyperfocus is a switch you can learn to flip. Time blindness is a pricing problem, not a productivity problem. Recurring revenue is a structural trap for ADHD brains. And procrastination is about data, not discipline. Today's episode is the one that brings it home, the ADHD trait I call out of sight, out of mind, or object permanence if you want to get technical. But whatever you call it, here's the bottom line. If your brain can't see it, your business doesn't have it. And if that's happening, you got money leaks. Well, hey friend, and welcome back to ADHD-ish. I'm Diann Wingert, and today is the 5th and final episode of the solo series, Reframing ADHD Traits as Business Strategies. 5 traits, 5 strategic reframes. And today is the one that holds everything together. If you're brand new to the show, welcome. Or if you've jumped in partway through the series, I'm glad you're here. And I'm going to tell you right now, you are definitely going to want to listen to the other 4 episodes in the series. I've linked to each of them in the show notes. But for now, don't worry about what you've missed. This episode stands on its own. You're just going to get a lot more out of the series if you double back. And if you've been here from episode 1, thank you for staying with me. This series took a lot of planning and a lot to record. So I'm proud of how it turned out. And I'm glad that you've been here with me from the beginning. Today is the closing move. All right. Object permanence. Let's get into it. And let me start where most people start and then push back. You've come to expect that from me by now, right? Object permanence in most people's minds is about babies. It's the theory developed by the Swiss psychologist that explains why toddlers don't understand peekaboo, the developmental milestone where a little human learns that mommy still exists when she's hiding behind a couch cushion. I have grown children and a background in psychotherapy, so I know this stuff. And that's not what we're talking about today. Because for adults with ADHD, object permanence isn't a developmental milestone we skipped. It's a functional glitch that follows us through adulthood and continues to show up everywhere, including our business. Your car keys, those leftovers in the back of the fridge, the good friend you haven't texted in 6 months, the subscriptions you keep paying for because you forget about them month after month. You know the pattern. If it's not right in front of your eyes, it somehow doesn't feel real. And if it isn't real, well, you're obviously not thinking about it. And if you're not thinking about it, it might as well not exist. Now, if I ran this by a neurotypical, they would just look at me slack-jawed with confusion. But you have ADHD or identify with the traits, and you get it big time. I mean, we laugh about this a lot in the ADHD community. Object permanence memes are basically an entire genre now. The friend you love but ghost, the plants you kill, the birthday you missed, even though it shows up on the same damn day every year. Now, here's the part that's not so funny. The exact same trait running through your business. And in your business, it's not cute, it's not harmless, and it never, and I mean never, shows up as a line item on your P&L. Object permanence is probably the most expensive trait that business owners with ADHD have, and almost none of them know they're paying for it because you can't put money I forgot existed on a balance sheet. It just goes. So that's where we're going today. Naming it, finding it, and then building the structural workaround that keeps it from bleeding you dry. All right, now let's go find the money. First, there are 3 layers where your money is leaking and disappearing into the void. The first layer, you have a list of people you've already worked with. And on that list are people you freaking loved working with. People who got great results and people who would gladly buy from you again. Except you haven't spoken to them in over a year. This is dormant money. You can think of it as warm money. Money that requires a fraction of the effort that a cold lead would require to convert. And I bet you couldn't even tell me the names of these people right now if I asked you. And that's not because you don't care about them. It's not because they didn't matter or you wouldn't appreciate working with them again. It's because they're not in your line of sight. They're not on today's calendar or to-do list. They're not in your inbox this week. And so from your brain's perspective, they no longer exist. Story time. I know this one for a fact. I know that warm money exists in your business because I found it in mine. And all I had to do was reach out to a client I loved working with, who also loved working with me, and schedule a catch-up call. 10 minutes into the chat, they said, "Everything I learned from working with you has paid off in growth and profit. Now it's time for us to streamline and scale. Would this be a good time to work with you again?" Yeah. And hey, it's not always that easy. I mean, they don't always just jump into your lap, but it's always, always, always going to be easier than selling to someone who doesn't yet know how good you are. Layer number 2, leads that are in motion, but you stop tracking them. Not the fumbled follow-ups, not the, "oh no, I meant to email her back." The prospect who was in your inbox 3 weeks ago, who was interested, who had maybe 1 or 2 more emails before becoming a client and is now genuinely completely wiped from your memory banks. Not delayed, not "I'll get to them later," gone. You could not tell me for a fact that they existed. You have no memory of the exchanges you had until you happen to search for something else in your email and stumble across them. Then you feel a wave of shame, get busy with something else, and away they go for another few weeks. This is where the money in your pipeline leaks the hardest, because a cold lead you never got is $0 to your business. But a warm lead you talked to, you invested time and energy in, and then dropped is thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars of revenue you were mathematically close to earning. And the difference between the two is literally that your brain couldn't hold that person in your memory. My client, Laura Schulte, refers to these kinds of leads as being in the dark pipeline. I helped her create a, I think, brilliant offer called the Pipeline Compounder, so her clients don't leak money either. Think about it. A consultant with ADHD who struggles with object permanence created a totally unique offer to help her clients compound the leads that their brains had forgotten about. I'll link to Laura's website in the show notes so you can see how genuinely cool it is. Layer number 3. Your own offers. This is the one that makes people cringe, so brace yourself. You have things you sell, but you never market them because you forgot they're part of your offer suite, the course you built, the retainer tier that nobody knows about because it's not on your website, the service you've delivered half a dozen times to happy clients and then forgot to mention because just slid off the edge of your brain, I guess, the workshop you ran once and could easily run again, but it hasn't crossed your mind in 8 months. If I sat down with you for an hour and audited your business, I could almost guarantee that I'd find at least one offer that is easy to sell and deliver that you're not currently selling or delivering because you forgot it's on the menu. Now, this is especially true if you are one of the more hyperactive types in the ADHD family and are relatively new to business ownership. Ideating and whipping up a new offer is something you could literally do in your sleep, or at least with your eyes closed and half your brain tied behind your back. But once they start piling up, that's a whole other story. You start to forget about them. So hold on, let's pump the brakes before we move on. I've identified 3 ways object permanence issues with ADHD are affecting your business. And bottom line, you've probably got them all. Past clients, dark leads, and your own offers. All disappearing, all costing you real money that you're never going to see, and you're never even going to know that you missed. Now, if you're anything like me and most of the people I know with ADHD, you're probably feeling kind of shitty right now, maybe even starting to spiral. That is not my intention. Or You might be promising yourself, you know what, she's right, and I'm going to try harder to remember. Or maybe I'm going to order that new planner or that new app I've been eyeing. Don't do that. Please don't do that. None of those things is the right move, especially the shame spiral. Let me share the right one. I want you to first take a deep breath, shake off the spiral, and keep listening. Here is the strategic core of this episode. Well, honestly, the whole series. Stop trying harder to remember. Stop relying on willpower. Stop relying on sticky notes. Stop relying on panic to resurface things at the last minute. That is not a plan. That is a very stressful way to live and run a business, and it's not a strategy. The brain you have, the ADHD brain you have, I have, we have, cannot reliably keep track of things when they're not right in front of us. It is a functional constraint. It's not a discipline problem, and it's not a not giving enough of a shit problem either. It is a hardware feature of this operating system we've been given. So the strategic move is don't argue with the hardware, build some software around it. Structural visibility. That is the phrase I want you to leave this episode with. Structural visibility. What would that look like? The CRM that does the remembering for you, for example, doesn't matter which one. What matters is that every past client, every warm lead in your dark pipeline, every conversation you've had that could turn into money if you didn't forget about them, is captured somewhere that's not your brain and tagged in a way that surfaces them on a regular cycle. Calendar rhythms that put those dormant relationships back in your line of sight on a regular basis. Quarterly re-engagement blocks in your calendar. Monthly client check-ins already booked as a recurring event, so you don't have to remember to do so. A weekly review, and I would honestly argue for weekly, not monthly, because it forces every offer in your suite back onto the screen of your mind. Not so that you can sell them all. You know how I feel about that. Just so you can see them all. Because you cannot decide whether or not to promote something if you can't remember you have it. Pre-schedule your re-engagement campaigns. The emails that go out automatically when clients have lapsed. Automatically scheduled in advance. Nurture sequences that reactivate warm leads without requiring you to remember they were warm. Now, I use Kit, formerly ConvertKit, for this very reason, and I recently upgraded to their Creator Pro tier because they've actually just created a bunch more ways of tracking all of these things that my brain loves so freaking much. I don't even mind that I have to pay a little bit more for the pleasure. Now, if you are looking for an email platform to take the heavy lifting off your plate, I highly recommend Kit. I've got an affiliate link in the show notes if you want to try it, but there are many other platforms that work, and you can find the one that's right for you. Here's the thing. This work is not glamorous. It's not sexy. It's not fun. It doesn't feel strategic while you're doing it. It feels clerical. And it frankly just feels like the thing you keep meaning to do and never do. You can outsource this or delegate it to an assistant, and you probably should. But make no mistake, this is the strategy. Because the ADHD business owners I know who are actually making good money and are not on the verge of burnout have all made the same move. They accepted the ADHD brain they've got and the constraints that go with it, including this object permanence bullshit. And they build systems that do the remembering for them. That is why this is the keystone episode of the entire series. Designing around your ADHD constraints instead of arguing with them, resenting them, or feeling victimized because of them. Every strategy in the previous 4 episodes in the series assumes that you can execute on it. Structural visibility is what makes that execution possible. My client Javier put off implementing a CRM in his business for a very long time. Now that he's using one, within weeks, his revenue is 30% higher month over month. That's not luck. That's not magic. And no, I didn't say, I told you so, but I did feel it. This is what happens when the business starts doing the seeing instead of the business owner trying to remember what their ADHD brain can't even remember exists. All right, here's the practice. And if you've been along for all the fun with the series, you knew this was coming. You're going to pick one of the 3 layers: past clients, dark leads, or your own offers. Just one. And you're going to build one piece of structural visibility for it. Not a project, not a system overhaul, not a I'm going to redesign my whole CRM this weekend. No, you're not, and we both know it. One piece, one starting point. Now, if you picked past clients, pull the list. Just pull the damn list. Get 20 names on a page. That is enough. You do not need to go further. You just need to make them visible again. If you picked the dark leads, start one lead tracking doc, however ugly it is, and move 3 warm conversations into it today. That's it. And if you picked your own offers, write down every single thing you have to sell or have sold that's still in alignment with the work that you're doing now. Every course, every service, every tier, every workshop, just write the damn list and look at it. Notice what's on it and notice what you haven't thought about in months. That's it. That's the entire practice. One layer, one piece of scaffolding for the next 7 days. And now, hit the pause button with me. Look at what these 5 episodes have added up to. Hyperfocus engineered on purpose instead of hijacking your attention. Time blindness that's priced around instead of ripping you off. Recurring revenue that's redesigned to fit your novelty-seeking brain. Procrastination treated as data, not a failure of your discipline. And object permanence structurally solved. This is not 5 productivity hacks. This is a strategic business redesign. Redesigned for the brain that actually runs it. Your brain and mine. That is the whole point of this series. Not to make you more disciplined, not to help you white knuckle it and force your way through, but to help you build something that works with the brain you've got instead of denying what it actually needs. Well, that's a wrap, friend. 5 ADHD traits, 5 strategic reframes, and a business that actually fits the brain that runs it. If you came in mid-series, you've got 4 other episodes waiting for you, and I think you're going to want them all. Start with whatever trait is causing you the most struggle right now and go from there. They're all linked to in the show notes. And if you've been here for the whole series, you are awesome. Before you go, if these 5 episodes have convinced you, it would be a whole lot easier to implement them with my personalized support. There's a link to my consultation calendar in the show notes as well.